Lorraine.
Hi, Vince. This is my first time, so hello.
Hello. Yes, good to see you here.
Thank you.
We're just a couple of minutes early, so we'll just hang around and wait to see if a few others turn up.
Beautiful. So you're in Sydney, is it?
Newcastle.
Newcastle, beautiful.
Where are you?
I'm in Perth,
Okay,
Australia. Perth, Australia.
right. So you're about 3 hours
Yeah.
or in ahead. I'm not sure which way it goes.
6 o'clock here, we're behind.
Oh, you're behind, right. So it's 9 p.m. here. Yep. Okay. Oh, well, that's convenient then, eh? I guess it's your tea time. Mm.
There's a lot being coming up it's never the right time, around the world, but this is perfect. So
Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah, the 4 meetings I do every week, they're all at different times, and it's even then it's hard to get it right for everybody. Yeah.
yeah. So how long has the group been going, Vince?
Oh, good heavens. I don't know. Let me tell you, I know I was doing it before I started actually publishing the groups, and I can look here. Let's see. Where are we? Oh, get out the road. Like a shorter answer off the top of my head is a couple of years. But I can tell you there. So there's, oh, that's not going to tell me. There's 185 videos in the What is Enlightenment group that have been published. So it goes back.
Is that 2 or 3 a week being published?
Yes, yeah, generally 3 a week for a fair while. 10:50 on a page. I'm just having a look at the actual videos now. Do you get that email each week, each Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday?
I haven't. I asked you for information about 10 days ago, and I haven't had anything else since.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I won't. Oh well, it should come from Substack. That's how I've been publishing it lately.
Maybe going into my junk mail.
It could be going into spam, yeah, for sure, because of that. So there's 375 videos up there altogether.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, but I wasn't publishing them in the beginning, and then I got a lot of feedback from people who were watching it about the value they got out of it. So I started publishing them. Then they were publishing 3 a week, and then I also then got several people saying, oh, they would come if it wasn't public. So I do one every Friday now that's not public.
Right.
As well for that reason. And at any time, if somebody says, can you pause the video, I'm really happy to do it, so that it's not public if they
Right.
want to talk
Okay.
about something that's private. See, it only wants to do 30 per page, so scrolling back through the pages. Getting there, 3:30. Right, so the 13th of June. Oh no, it's a different one. Different one altogether. The 9th of December 2016. No, 2022. 9th of May 2022 is the first one I've got there published.
Oh,
Yeah, 3 years. It didn't seem quite like it's been 3 years, but yeah, it's been a while. And on that link that I send you out,
mhm.
uh, there's a link to the playlist so that you've got access to all of those if you want.
Okay.
Um, and look, you can pick any one of them at random to watch because so much repetition's going on, as Scott will attest. I say the same thing over and over again, in a different way sometimes, but um, yet it always seems really fresh and new to me every time I have a meeting. So yeah, anyway, interesting. Mm.
Good morning. Can you hear me? I'm wearing my earbuds.
Yes, I can hear you fine, Scott. Yeah. Okay. Meet Lorraine. She hasn't been before.
Hi, Lorraine.
Um,
Good to meet you.
and where are you based, Scott?
I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA.
Wow.
Unfortunately. Where are you?
I'm in Australia.
Ah,
On the opposite end from Vince, though. I'm still 3 hours time difference from Vince.
She's only about 3,000 kilometres away.
it's a big old continent, isn't it?
Mm.
It's not quite. I saw a map today of the actual sizes of all the continents, and America is the fifth biggest continent, and Australia is the sixth biggest, and the difference is very little. Australia and well, because of, not including Alaska, Australia is the same size pretty much as the United States part, the North America, but not
So,
including
but
Alaska.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's one country, though. You don't, it's all one country. Like,
Yes, that's
North
right.
America has three major countries on it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we've got states, but yeah, it's not like America. That's right. Yeah.
I doubt you guys would even let me in if I tried to get away from here.
No, look,
You
you'd
seem
be,
more
you'd be
trouble.
welcome. You've got my sympathy at the moment. You'd be very welcome to come.
You think? I don't know if I can get a visa or not.
Yeah, it is certainly interesting times, isn't it?
I don't even have a passport. I'm like really thinking I should try, but the first time I tried to apply for a passport, the information that they wanted was like unavailable. My parents are all dead. Everybody's gone. Like they're wanting all kinds of information from people, that aren't alive, and I don't have access to their information, so I just didn't do it. But
Mm.
we'll see how things go. It's an interesting experiment. Like I'm just trying to use it to, you know, direct me back inside. It's
Yeah, that's all we can do. It's like being sick. We just have to wait till things heal. Mm.
Morning, everyone.
Hi, Dennis.
I guess.
I'll need a few minutes for camera.
You want to put your makeup on?
You're not pretty yet? Come on, you're always pretty.
I just have to put my wig on.
Just go without.
Dennis is in Ireland.
Yeah, I picked that accent up there.
You're in Scotland, I take it, are you?
No, I'm actually in Perth, Australia.
I know, I heard. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, from Glasgow.
If I come to Australia, am I going to have to learn to have an accent, like to change so I don't sound like, well, I know I have an accent, but different.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I've got an American friend here, And me and my wife were joking today about teaching him how to sound Australian instead of American. And he drives a Tesla, and he needs a badge on the back of it that says, "This is not a Musk car."
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
All this political talk is probably a bit shocking for Lorraine. She didn't expect that, I'll bet.
Yeah,
All good.
we don't do that very much.
Mm.
So, Lorraine, what brought you to whatever this is?
I kind of had a couple of experiences myself, but that was more through like psychedelics. And then I went looking for more. That was the door, and I explored shamanism, and then came across with Angelo de Lulu, and
Oh,
through him, through
Good
watching
old
him,
Angela.
yeah, and reading his book, I found the Awakening curriculum,
yep, vanilla.
and I've
Yeah.
just started watching. I've just started dipping into the fourth fetter, and through obviously watching that, I found this group. So here I am.
Right.
Awesome.
So,
Welcome. You're in
absolutely
a good
amazing
spot.
the way the world works, isn't it? Yeah. Mm. May is in London if she's not in Serbia.
In Winchester, if not in Croatia.
Oh, Croatia. Oh, oh, God. My ignorance of geography is astounding. Mm.
Don't worry.
And my
Another part
memory
of the
as
world.
well. Yeah. Mm. I hear great things about the beauty of Croatia, and the history there. So it's on my bucket list, but whether it'll ever happen's another story. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get going. So you said, Lorraine, that you've had a few experiences. That were those experiences, um, those doorway experiences with psychedelics. Did they lead to any other experiences beyond that?
No, there was just there was an initial heart opening, and then when I went down the shamanic healer path, there was just tremendous amounts of personal healing through trauma. So I've spent the last 2 years just doing lots of trauma work, shadow work. Yeah, so that's been tremendous, enormous. Just working on myself, and then as I approach the theta work and reading Angelo's stuff, I have a cognitive understanding of the I know there's no self,
Hmm.
but I'm still very much caught up in the
Illusion of it.
yeah, just get sucked in.
Yeah, yeah,
And then, just as I was watching the first lesson on the fourth theta there, um, yeah, there's just more levels of realization of the depth of the attachment.
yeah.
Because then when I heard what she said, it resonated with me. There's no trigger, but then there was a sadness. And I was like, well, what's the sadness based on? That's based on another belief.
Hmm.
So it's just deepening and deepening there. So there's the realization of no self and working through the fetters. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Do you have? Uh, is there a story there for you about an end point in this?
Not really.
Good, 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 good. It's one of the big obstructions, if you like, is the ideals. The people have expectations that it's of what it might be. Yeah. So what you experience, I still experience. Now the frequency and the intensity may be different, but nevertheless, it still happens from time to time. So I don't see any end to this stuff in a way. It's just maybe there is, but I'm not there yet. So I still get triggered. So it's yes. But what we're doing, and the whole thing that we're doing here, really, in a way, is changing. Changing is the wrong way to put it. I'm going to stumble all the time on words because no words kind of really do say are the right thing. But okay, we're going to discover beliefs that are held that cause constriction, contraction, unpleasant beliefs that come up. And as we discover them, the recognition of them changes the beliefs. We let go, if you like. And so really it might be a way of saying it that we're uncovering unconscious stuff, and we're doing that by seeing what happens from a particular perspective. So that's and that perspective you can call it awakening or whatever you want to call it. It's it's just a name. It's just a story about it. Nevertheless, you said you don't get triggered much now. That's a good way to find stuff that's there if you do get triggered. But if you feel sadness, you could almost for sure say that's been triggered, even though it's not an explosive kind of an experience. It's something that seems to kind of emerge out of the depths, so to speak.
Well, there's still lots of triggering bits.
Okay, all right.
There's still lots of triggering. I'm just working through them and probably, which is having an impact on the charge level. I'm just noticing more about the reactions and noticing more about the
Yeah. So do you experience that when you get triggered and you see it, that it changes by simply seeing it?
yeah, just by giving it space to be there. It's okay to be there and
Yep, not fighting it, not pushing it away. Yeah, excellent, excellent. Yeah, yeah. So lots of things come out of these groups, and one of them is the opportunity to express things in a really authentic, spontaneous way, and it's that reveals things for us when that happens. It gives us stuff to look at that we don't know. Stuff because if we're by ourselves, it just passes by and we don't even notice it. When we're in this kind of situation, it gets noticed, if not by us, by others. And yeah, it's great. So there are no rules here, essentially. Well, there are rules, of course there are rules. The rule is that there's no rules. Right? Essentially, don't put your hand up if you've got something to say. If somebody's talking and you are inclined to add to it, just jump in. Wait for we will sometimes overtalk each other. That's just the nature of Zoom. It always sorts itself out pretty quickly. Somebody will say, no, you go ahead, and then we're right. So don't fret. When I talk about authenticity, it's appropriate and important or valuable or productive, might be the better word, to be authentic with yourself. And of course we do that. I mean, I can assume that we all do that. We wouldn't be here if we weren't intending to do that. So, we recognise that stuff that we're feeling and we're happy to show it, kind of thing. Yeah. Weird feelings like feared feelings. See, sometimes it's hard to say if they're feelings or ideas. People feel stuck is a common one, and so we start looking at what stuck is, And that's one of the things that leads us to something valuable, is to recognize that the more detail we go into, the more aspects of what's going on gets seen. And so, that's seeing again. That's what evaporates the bits of us that we've been unconsciously keeping hidden. Anyway, I feel like I'm just ranting now. So did you come with any specific things in mind to look at? Well,
I'm still getting. I didn't come with any specific things, but I'm just interested in. Yeah, I've seen a couple of the videos online, and I'm just interested in getting involved with people who are, chewing the fat around it. I
right.
love the,
Yeah.
instead of me just reading and absorbing, I'd like to be in a place where you're involved in a group discussion. I think at the minute I'm getting, and I think stuck is a word. I get stuck on the, the issue is the attachment to an outcome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here I'm on this group with goal in mind. So I still get stuck on that around, is it, are we to be goalless or are we to have goals but just absolutely zero attachment to the outcome?
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, that's something we're really conditioned with right from early ages, to outcomes. Yeah, we've got to be doing something. We've got to be putting effort into something for a purpose, and so that outcome thing is really big. Yeah. So it's important to appreciate that the to the what, whatever turns up is an opportunity, and the more unpleasant it appears, probably the bigger opportunity it is for us as well. So stuff that turns up, and we don't, and there's no point, but in fact it's counterproductive to try and change what turns up. So it's really what we do is examine the relationship to what turns up. So with you and saying that you've got this achievement oriented attitude that turns up from time to time, I go, fine, let's look at that, and let's look at how you feel about that. And so one of the things that comes to mind frequently here, and I say it again and again, is, do you judge it? I'm getting an echo here. Right? Do you when you find that you've got a goal in mind, how do you feel about that? Do you judge it? Do you say, I shouldn't do it? It's wrong? Or do you just say,
I think
okay?
for me, what I've just been going through recently is some really awareness of an elevated pride on achievement.
Oh, okay.
So like you've been growing up with the whole Tony Robbins, personal development, achievement, you can do anything, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
And I believe that was what was pushing me. And then just the last couple of weeks, I've been uncovering that, that's a little bit of elevated pride on that achievement. There's, so I'm just questioning all of that.
Okay, so how we would approach that, how I would approach that is to look at it and go, elevated pride, good story. I know what you mean. Right? What is it in experience? Okay, what is it? What I imagine it is in experience is you get a little puffed up. You get a little bit pat yourself on the shoulder thing, and so what could lead to judgment easily is to say, oh, okay, you're selfing. Okay, you're expressing the illusion of a self as if it were more than an illusion. When you say, oh, good on Lorraine, I did that. Yeah. Now, it happens. It ain't wrong. It's not wrong or it's not right. It just happens. right? And how you feel about it is your portal into what it comes from, what triggers it. Right? So we could say, all right, if it's been Tony Robbins stuff all your life and your parents were really big on that kind of stuff and they were always pushing you and rewarding you in that stuff, then okay, that's pretty deep conditioning that you've got going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the really big things I would point out is you weren't born that way.
Mm.
It's conditioning. You were brainwashed to be that way. I mean, that's a strong and ugly word, but nevertheless, it's pretty relevant, isn't it? Yeah.
Welcome to the group. You've been brainwashed, yeah. Awesome.
But what that recognition does is because you know, okay, you weren't born that way, you weren't born broken, it can be changed. So straight away that releases the grip of it to a degree. The fact that if you were conditioned, you can be deconditioned. And deconditioned is just simply to see the fallacy of the conditioning.
Mm.
So it's the relationship when it happens, that feeling of being puffed up, and the doorway into recognizing what it's based on is to go with the feeling, to really sink into the feeling that comes from the achievement. So it's not about the achievement, it's about how you feel about it. And if you can chase the sensation component of the feeling, you'll also recognize the story component of the feeling. And so this is something that I say it's a meme that's kind of worked its way here, and that is that a feeling is a sensation with stories hanging off it. And when you feel pride, that's a sensation, that's that feeling of being puffed a bit. And the stories that say, this is why I can be puffed, because I did it. You know, so those stories obviously become pretty fragile when you look at them directly. When you stare them in the face, they don't hold much water. But the feeling's there, and that feeling, if you just go towards the sensation of that feeling, you will discover what it sits on. You'll get closer to what's underneath it. Marius is also a guide here, and he's really good at slapping people around directly and kind of saying, you know, what's going on. So, and Scott knows really well about this doing stuff. You know, he's really got that down to a T. He knows that. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So, anyway, I don't want to just rant because there's no point in just telling you things. You know, that's just intellectual stuff. What we've got to do is make it a visceral kind of experience to do that. So have you got an actual experience that you can use as an example of this? What was the most recent time you felt that bit of pride about achieving something?
So it was helping somebody through a healing session, yeah, and they had a breakthrough, you know, and then after that you're like, oh, that was great, you know, that's I guess the feeling was because it's a new modality I was learning. So I was like, I can finally use this. I think I can make it work. But yeah, I was working with somebody else on it using like the DeMartini method is a methodology that I'm looking for collapsing and or just transforming emotions and feelings. And what was pointed out to me was that where there's shame, there's and these are stories again though. Like where there's shame, there's pride
Mm-hmm.
in equal amounts, you know. And if I want to work on a shame, then I look at to see where the pride is. So that's when I went looking for all the pride, where there was a shine on it. And yeah, they could be everyday things. It's looking after my child. I think a big puffed up one was, oh, I'm a single parent and running a business, and I think there's a little bit of a, oh, I'm a superwoman syndrome there. And I initially, when I went to talk to somebody about it, I thought it was resentment, but she pointed out it's not resentment; it was actually pride. In there, which so that's what's going on around my mind at the minute.
Mm. Mm. Okay. See, stories form here for me as I listen, and it's. I'd like to suck a bit of the solidity out of the labels, pride and shame and so on. We certainly use them. They're appropriate for some things, but they're not a thing. They're just a description of something, and it's that thing that they're describing. And labels are always pretty superficial descriptions of something. So down underneath the labels is the experience of what that label points to, and that experience is always way more intricate and full and detailed and so on than the actual label is, you know. So the label kind of almost dismisses what's going on underneath it as say, oh, it's just that, it's just pride, or it's just shame, and so on. Yeah. So if we look at, so this is, I'm aware that I had a rave about this quite recently, but if we've got a low self-esteem, and I'm not saying you have, I'm just using this as an example, then most people in society would see that the counterbalance to that is to have a high level of confidence. So the one counteracts the other. But a high level of confidence is just another version of low self-esteem. Right? When low self-esteem is, let's call it cured, as for want of a better word, it's simply a non-event. It doesn't exist. It's not there anymore. It's not replaced by a super confidence kind of thing. You know, that's the thing. And of course, what that super confidence is, or pride, if you like, or whatever that comes from, it's an attempt to counter the other side of things. It's an attempt to balance that low self-esteem. So let's say you have this tendency to feel proud about achievements, being the superwoman. It's because you have the opposite working.
Yep.
That you need to counterbalance that with. And you can see that intellectually easy enough. But what happens in real life is that certain conditions will trigger that. And those conditions we often are not aware of. They could be simply a sound or a colour or a movement or a name or anything, you know, that come from the original conditioning, most likely, not always, but very often, that can trigger us into that situation. Somebody talks to you with a particular tone of voice, and without even realising it, you're responding to your mother saying, you should try harder, or something. You know what I mean? So they don't happen by themselves. They get triggered by conditions. And if we discover those conditions, we can often discover that actually it's quite ridiculous that they're still present, because they belong to a child in us, not the adult that we are now. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Marius? Tell us what you think. I'll put him on the spot, you see.
I don't have I haven't formed any any thoughts yet, other than, have you explored the sense of doership, and are is it is it is it clear to you that your actions are not yours, so to speak, that there is a reaction to life, to your particular set of conditioning? Or do you feel like your actions are produced by you, by a self?
No, I think I've got the awareness that there's no self. But I still get sucked in and forget about that. So still get, sometimes I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, that's natural, but when you notice that you get puffed up or feel a sense of pride, is there can there be a noticing of that in connection to your intellectual understanding of non-doership?
I don't even know what that means.
No. So what can happen, like if you investigate the concept of not doership, or the lack of control or the illusion of control,
Yep.
in your everyday actions, what can happen is that, for example, when a sense of pride comes up for something that you have done, you can also have another thought that reminds you that actually
I didn't
this
do
is
it.
just,
Mm.
yeah. So this is how we kind of open ourselves to a new form or a new set of conditioning, by really kind of looking closely at our everyday actions. What can happen is that we notice more and more, or we get a reminder, so to speak, through thoughts, more and more in those instances of pride or guilt or shame, or all of these are connected to the sense of doership. So that was
Or I am.
what came up
I
here.
amness. Yeah,
Sorry?
it's still. And when you say doership, you're still referencing in the back there the I am doing, I am thing. That there's a sense of self there. Is that what you mean by the doership?
Yeah, so a doership, it just means that there's a self in the center of you, in control of your everyday actions. So you feel like whatever you're doing, there's a self in the center of that, controlling and doing, not a set of conditioning just responding to what is happening around you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand.
Lorraine, have you done LU? Like, have you been through LU?
No.
Very, very lot there. It's really great. Maybe Marius can guide you.
Yeah, I'm fully booked at the moment, but um, I have a couple of guys really close at the breaking point. So maybe if you're interested, yes.
Yeah, I am,
Or if not,
absolutely. Yep, I
yeah.
am. Thank you.
It explains stuff so well. It really helped me, even though it was one of my.
You just went on mute there. There you go.
I said I had one of my like doership breakdowns in from LU. Like it happened due to the LU, but the whole act of being guided was just really instructional and really helped me a lot, even though the whole experience was traumatic for me. But I really recommend it. It's really helped me a lot.
Yeah, okay. What does that involve? Am I meant to? Because I did sort of look it up online. Is that you sign up on the website, or do you have to talk to somebody first, or what? What? How does that start?
Well, you just
Hey,
register
it's one.
yeah.
Yeah.
On the website. You register, and then you wait for a guide to pick you up.
Right.
And it depends on how many people are waiting and how full the guides are, etc. How long you might wait for somebody to guide you, and then it's generally a daily response reply on a forum.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's good for sure. Yeah, it's very good. So I get the feeling that you've got a really good handle on this intellectually,
Mm.
and then your behaviour, your whatever you call it, your history is suggesting that okay, there's still hooks in there. There are still some hooks that are there, and so what Marius and Scott are talking about is that idea that generates feelings, behavior that you can take credit for what happens. Now, don't get it wrong. When you were telling me this when you was telling us the story earlier about how you worked with somebody and had a breakthrough, of course that's a joyous moment. There would be nothing just would suggest that it's inappropriate to feel joy and happiness when something like that occurs. But it didn't happen because of you.
Yeah.
You were just some of the circumstances involved in that happening. Their readiness was a huge part of what was involved in that. And all of the conditions that got you guys together was part of the conditions in it, and so on and so on. So when you look at it objectively like that, all you can say is, wow, what an amazing set of circumstances that led to that outcome. But they were infinite, those circumstances. They weren't limited by any means. There's no cause and effect. That's a simplistic notion. This is way more complex than that caused that to happen. So sure, feel joy, absolutely. If patting yourself on the back happens, okay, that shows you that there still exists a belief that you had some control over what happened. And so what we can look at then is this sense of control. Is it actual? Is it an illusion? And if we believe it's there, then it's a delusion. If we recognize that it's a feeling that turns up, but it doesn't have any substance in reality, then it becomes an illusion. And a lot of illusions will continue until they don't. But we know that they don't have any substance. They are just simply what things appear when we look at it from the old way of looking at it. When we look at it with a critical eye about what was actually involved, we can see that there was no control. It's easy to see that. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep, you recognise that, yeah. So, okay, so we've just got an illusion, but somehow that illusion has got a physical component to it. It's got a response that makes us feel a bit of credit is due, kind of thing. So there's still a belief there about something. And it could be that that belief is not about, it's very likely, in fact, that that belief is not about that actual circumstance. So another meme that's really useful with this stuff is it's never about what comes up. It's always about what triggers it to come up. And so what it appears like, what comes up is you're saying, "Oh, good on you, Lorraine. You got that done," and then you go, "Oh, that's not right." But I did feel it. I did feel it, even though I know it's not right. Right? And as it turns out, we'll get down and we'll go, what you're really saying is, "Look at me, Mum. I did it. I did it. I did it," or something. Whatever the details might be. And it's not you at all. It's young Lorraine still wanting approval and acceptance or something. So when you had that experience of puffiness, it's a funny way to say it, isn't it? When you had that experience, what was your reaction to it?
Well, it's actually a really bad example. I know I didn't do that. It was just one that I brought up when I was on talking to somebody else. There's like there's definitely there's definitely a condition there with mum, right? And around, she was a single parent, and she always gave me the credit for, "Oh, don't worry, Lorraine will fix it all. Lorraine will do it all for me. She'll do this, she'll do that. Lorraine's the Wonder Woman, da 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 da." So that's how I got my praise and my love from her, right?
Yeah.
Because I was the one who could sort everything out for her. So there's a realization of that.
So you were an adult when you were still a child, eh?
Yeah, yeah,
You had an adult role as a child.
yeah.
You were the parent looking after the child who was your mother.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm smiling because I didn't expect to be saying all this the first time on YouTube. Right, it's like, but right, how far am I going to go?
All the way, I hope. Yeah.
Right, we're on here for 5 minutes. You got on my whole big history.
I tell you, one of the reasons why I publish these is because I just get so much feedback, constant feedback from people who watch them and go, "Oh, I really identified. That was speaking to me. That was just so exactly what I needed to hear." So it's really valuable for way more people than just turn up to the meetings, for sure. Yeah. I
Just
haven't.
one.
One of these,
Yeah, go on.
I just want to say one of these recordings has me crying and sobbing and acting like a baby, like big time. At least one of them, and probably more than one. But yeah, I'm
Me
all
too.
in it. I want to see some embarrassment.
Yeah.
I was going to add something, guys. I was just listening to you, Lorraine, speak. Not really paying attention too much to the words, but kind of listening to the sounds, and it really jumped out at me. These little giggles, and then there was laughing, and straight away it just came to me. Oh, there's young Lorraine here. She's in the room, kind of revealing herself. And it's only when Vince said that's what he said about being young. There was definitely a sense of a young Lorraine here. Um, I don't know if it was a nervous giggle or a laugh or what, but it'd be interesting to see what she thinks of all this.
Probably terrified she's there in her graces on YouTube. um,
I'm
yeah,
always happy to pause
I've
it if
just
you,
done. What's that, Ben?
I say I'm always happy to pause the video if you want.
It's all right. I don't know what I think. This has been it's been in my awareness just for. I always, just in a story around achievement, I had a different story. I had this story that I was a go-getter and could do everything. And then the last 6 months, I'm part of my healing journey and working on all this stuff, I've realised it's not that at all. So I've done a fair bit of work on that, and I need to feel, feel valued and a sense of importance.
But if you were to check in with young Lorraine right now, how does she feel?
Vulnerable.
What is she afraid of?
Really, I think my the original query that came up with this was, is this just another achievement? That I'm on this call when that I've got the desire to reach another level of realization, awakening. Is it just another goal or box to tick? Is it a calling? Is it just a story? So because the whole achievement and goal achievement thing and has just been in my awareness for the last wee while, I'm now looking at, applying that to what I'm learning. Is this just another distraction?
So implicit in that is a judgment that if it is just that,
Then I'm not content with what is.
yes, yeah. But if you don't control things and it's there, what happens? And that's what comes up. And if it's not about that, it's about what triggered that.
It's like doubt. Better too.
Doubt, you think, Scott?
He's saying stuff that I tell myself in my head all the time, or used to. And it was just like when the doubt thing went, that's when I said, oh, I don't know if I'm awake or not, but I'm just going to hang out and do this because I like it. That's, and then I wasn't seeking anymore. I just hanging out.
Okay.
Still looking at the feathers, but, I don't have any, no, I've looked at it several times. I just have this, I guess what it is I have a memory of how I felt before. And then I just kind of know how things are now. And it's so different that I just, 'cause there's, it tries to come around the corners, but essentially it's like 90% gone. Like nothing, it doesn't seem like anything just disappears completely for me, but 90% of it just went away and I see it coming around the corner. But at this point, I get up and I watch my stuff or I do my things and I don't care whether there's some shift or I don't even think about the goal really. Like, I guess that's what it is. Like, I can't say if you were to ask me, are you awake? I don't really think of myself as awake, but at the same time, I don't care about any end goal later on with this.
So, Scott, tell Lorraine. Well, it's a question for you, but I'm really pointing it at Lorraine here. Is when you said you're no longer seeking, what's the relationship to that and achievement, doing, successful doing? I guess is what achievement is.
The relationship to seeking and doing.
Yes, yeah. So when seeking dropped, did doing also drop? Did achievement become
Yeah,
non-issue?
yeah. It's because there's no like goal. There's no
Okay, so
imagined endpoint.
yeah, yeah. So tell Lorraine, how did seeking drop? How did that stop being an issue? Stop happening?
The shift, like when I had that shift, or
Yeah, yeah.
the
So
result of
explain to Lorraine what you saw that instigated that shift for you. What you saw that changed that belief that you were even capable of doing and achieving and
it.
chasing.
Like the shift itself was just like uh completely a surprise. Like I was just stretching and I leaned back and I was watching the video and it just felt like a thought was put in from the side. It didn't have anything to do with the video. It didn't have anything to do with the thoughts that were going through my head. It just kind of came in from the side, like there was another entity sticking it in, and just like all it says, like doubt is just a thought. As soon as that came through, I just was like, oh, doubt's just a thought. There was a big, wave of relaxation, and then I think, well, if doubt's just a thought, then every other one of these emotions, and they're all just thoughts too, so they don't exist either. Like it just,
Hmm.
and it does try to come around the corner for me,
Yeah, yeah.
and I just when I see it, I just, oh yeah, there's one of those thoughts.
So I want you to get out of that if you can, Lorraine. What Scott was saying was he was a man that was driven to do things. He was a doer
Mm.
really big time, right? And when it happened, it just happened. It wasn't a result of any doing. He didn't go looking for it and find it. It just happened to him because something unknown, we don't know what those circumstances were. Maybe it was his whole lifetime of seeking and whatever went on before that led him to the place and the whatever it took for that to happen. But it was out of his control completely. You get that? You cannot work to achieve what it is that needs to happen. So when it happens, you'll feel joy, but you won't feel puffed up about it. There'll be no pride about it. That'll be your recognition of it. You'll go just like Scott, or your version of it. I mean, we all have it in our own way. You'll go, oh, okay. And the belief will have changed. But I mean, you won't even know that the belief that will have changed. It'll be deep down inside somewhere. But all of a sudden, there won't be that kind of stuff that happens. Now, for somebody who's driven to achieve like you, that's a kind of a tricky one, isn't it?
Well, that was the sadness I felt just after watching that 4:30 thing because, and again, that was another belief. Because I was like, well, if all these goals are also just thoughts, these outcomes are also just thoughts, then yeah, there was this is like a sadness on saying, I don't know who was weeping. It's
Yeah.
well, it was just like all that for nothing. sort of thing. So there was a bit of a sadness there, but I think then that's on another belief.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a sadness there, like
Yeah.
a
What about grief?
realization, like wow.
Was there grief with that sadness?
Yeah, there has been over the last couple of days. Today it's just a feeling of real heaviness in my heart. And in my
Yeah.
chest. It's a real
Like something is
labeling stuff.
something is gone. Would you go as far as to say that?
Yeah, that was a big realization. That was just half an hour before the call.
Mm.
Something's definitely dropped there, and so I was left feeling sad
Yep,
that
yep.
all
And
this.
it's also a new place. It's
Mm,
unfamiliar. So that's something. So there's the grief of what was familiar is gone.
mm,
And then there's this novelty of being in a new place and not quite knowing how to do stuff.
who will I be? What will I do?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. What will I lose? Yeah. Don't. Yeah. See, we've got to be careful a bit here too, because we can not easily um, establish ideas that aren't likely to happen, aren't accurate. And one of the things is, look, you're always going to be a driven person, right? But you'll be driven in a different way, right? So your energy and your focus and stuff that you use now in the way that you have been using it, a lot of that stuff will continue. It'll have a different flavour, but you'll always be the go-getter that you've been. That's unlikely to stop. Because that's your nature. That's the personality that's developed. Their habits. That's a lifetime of conditioning that's got that in, and that's probably not going to change. But what's behind it will. Right? The suffering that was going along with it before, the consequences of not meeting a goal will be different,
Yeah.
and so on and so on. Yeah.
I feel like also adding that, if you've ever heard of the concept of ego death,
Yeah.
which is basically, the death of the personality.
Yeah.
So I do agree with what Vince just said on the ultimate level, but I think it's also, at least from my own experience, a lot of the stuff that used to interest me, that used to motivate me to get going, to achieve, that was behind all of that died, that fell away. So if you find yourself not as driven as you used to be, that's okay too, because a lot of the stuff that used to drive you were driven by
There's feelings of lack.
unhealthy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'll be glad to drop it because I'm bloody knackered.
Yeah.
All this doing, I'm just
Yeah.
Yeah.
done.
And yeah, so from sharing my own experience as a heavy duty doer in a previous life, there most likely will be a period where you have the movement of wanting to do, like there's something there that keeps wanting to move forward, but at the same time, the stuff that you kind of had to move forward towards, your goals and achievements might also fall off. And so there's no interest. So you have this conflict where something wants to move forward, but you have nothing that you have no direction because your personality is dying.
Yeah.
And coming to terms with that you don't always need to do, like relaxing into beingness. From there, a new kind of inspiration and creativity and a new flow aligning itself with life, like on the spontaneous, creative, inspirational level, not as a doer, but something you just feel inspired to do, and letting go of that movement of doership. That's where the trust in life happens, where you see what life wants to do next and not the doer. And that's the whole process. For me, it was heavy.
That resonates deeply, and I feel heavy. There's a big heavy plank in my
Yeah.
chest. Big heaviness.
And this is a mourning period. Like it's time to just feel and not want. I mean, our tendency is not wanting to sit with these uncomfortable feelings. We want to run into the mind and figure out solutions to get past this, or get to the next level. But there's no way. You're either going to prolong that period by trying to get out of it, but still having to feel like crap, or just feel, and then maybe it will go a bit smoother. That is my experience, anyways.
Thank you.
It was pretty klutzy the way I put it before. I guess the message I was trying to get over, and that I would really like you to appreciate, is that you're not going to fall into a heap, unable to do anything. You're not going to end up in a nihilistic state. You're totally devoid of, not fully totally apathetic. That's not going to happen likely. There may be moments of that, of course, but that's not going to be something you're going to get to. Certainly what's behind it will change, and that's the flavour of it will be different as a result of that. So you won't be achieving for approval anymore. You might be achieving for a particular intention, but not driven by the intention. Just that'll be just there. Yeah, I was kind of heading back into that, wasn't I? But yeah.
I know what you mean, Vince.
But the big thing is now being open to and recognizing that everything has been shaken up, and that there's a realignment happening, and just being really curious about how it will settle back. Yeah.
The cat. I think it was really timely to come on at the call.
I didn't quite get that.
I was just saying it was really timely. It was like divine timing coming onto the call.
Oh, the cat. Yeah.
No, I just mean the realizations that I had today, and then coming on and having an explanation of that heaviness feeling and what.
Yes.
Yeah, it was perfect timing.
Yeah. My experience is life does this all the time. It's amazing. We're ready for something and life presents it beautifully. Yeah. Mm.
I'm glad you came and that you opened up.
Me too. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Have you been, Maya?
My mind working like crazy during this talk with Lorraine. Seeing things here, seeing things there. I wanted to say, I think I dropped all the expectations, goals, everything, because it's easier not having them. It's easier to be me in my situation without having goals and without thinking this should be like this and that should be like that. It's much easier not to.
That's a big one.
Not to set targets, yeah. But it's also, I'm also sad. I have no, my husband sitting here beside me, he'll hear this, and it's fine because he knows. I have no wish to go on vacation anywhere anymore. I'm good here, sitting here. Okay, I'm traveling all the time. He's working from home, so it's different for me and for him. But no wish whatsoever to do anything anymore, and it's sad. I think it's sad. I'm sad. On the other hand, everything what I was before, with all those goals and all those expectations, it was a story about me. And if it's not there, there's no me anymore. Okay, I'm sad because of that. But then, all the time, there is now, so I will say what is now, but there was before during the talk. When I say all of this, then the doubt comes. Is it true? Is it true that I've really dropped all the goals, all the expectations? I don't believe myself. And then someone said, but it's a thought. It's just a thought. I don't believe myself. The doubt is a thought. But it doesn't catch. It doesn't help. So I'm just in this process all the time. It's like a wheel that turns. And there is something I think I have achieved. And there comes the doubt, and there comes the insight that the doubt is a thought, and then again and again, and nothing changes actually. Nothing drops because I saw it as a thought.
So would you imagine then that because nothing drops, there's another thought, another story there that says you don't quite believe that it's just a thought? Or
Yeah, there. Oh, okay. Of course, it must be a story. But I can do it. I can do it indefinitely, like two mirrors watching each other. You know, just
yeah. So when you realize it's just a thought, but it comes back because another thought says that first thought isn't quite right. It's not just a thought. There's something more than a thought.
okay. Then, if it's more than a thought, then it must be at least some level of truth in it.
What's that?
For example, that I really didn't drop all the expectations. Let's go to the first step of it. So the thing that I don't believe myself, that I have dropped the expectations and goals, it's true.
Okay. This is a really simple one. Check. Have a look. Are there expectations and goals there? Or are there thoughts?
The first what comes to mind is that I block them. There are, but I block them. I'm not allowing myself to see them. Because I know.
So,
because the story goes, I should drop them.
yes. And if they're not dropped, that means you've just wasted a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
And more than that, you've been lying to yourself.
Yes.
You're
yes.
a fraud.
Yes. And this is.
You're an absolute fraud.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Fraud, imposter, whatever I do.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a big one for me. It's a big one for me.
What if there were still expectations, etc. there, but you were able to not engage with them? Now, then you wouldn't be a fraud. You're not trying to convince yourself that something that is there is not there. You're simply refusing to engage with them, to be entertained by the details of them. Would there be any difference between them actually being there and not being there if you simply didn't engage with them?
There wouldn't be
No.
a difference.
The fact of their existence is irrelevant in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. They come. I don't choose them to come. I didn't make them.
Mm. And so when you have them, if you have a relationship with them that says they shouldn't be there because if they are there, I'm da-da-da-dum, right? That's one thing. But if you say, oh, they came, but I know they're just thoughts, so I won't engage with them.
Okay.
There's no lying. There's no fraudulent behaviour going on at all, is there? There's simply the acknowledgement that they turn up, and because they're just thoughts, I don't need to engage with them.
And I torture myself judging myself.
Yes. Well, there's no need to judge if you simply don't engage with them, is there?
Yeah.
You are judging yourself about their existence.
Yeah. As if I had anything with the fact that they're here.
The thing with doubt is that no amount of mental energy is going to fix it, because they're created of mental energy. It's like asking the eyeball to see itself. You know, it's an impossibility. And so you're not going to fix doubt by thinking about it. The only way you fix doubt is you get bored with it, because you know it's irrelevant, even though it turns up. And you just get sick of it coming back again and again, because what's the point? It's useless. It's only just thought.
Okay. I think I'll be calmer now with this when it pops up, which is good. And if I just have to get bored with it, I'll sit and wait.
Yeah. And so, and under these circumstances, there's zero reason to judge anything. So again, you don't have a judgment, and then you don't feel bad about the fact that you have a judgment. You don't judge the judgment, because you don't need to judge anymore. It's just a fact, the way it is. There it is. It turns up. It's just a story. I don't have to engage with that story.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. This was this is so comforting.
And I just want to point out that you said there's like two mirrors that can just go on and on, but it feels like that. But you know, you need to recognize this again and again and again and again until, like Vin said, it's just like, oh, I'm bored with this now. So it's just like reaching the threshold of how interesting, and then it just
Okay.
loses its
Okay.
interest.
Okay. Yeah, sitting out like everything else. I've
Just
set out
noticing.
many things before, so. Yeah. On the other hand, I had an interesting insight yesterday. There's a story leading up to it, and the story is irrelevant. I was watching my breath. I decided to watch my breath. And what I saw was the following. I observed, I had speakers, noise cancelling speakers on, so I could hear myself breathing. And I observed myself listening to myself breathing. Then I observed my belly going up and down. And then the air through my nostrils. And suddenly I figured out those are three completely separate events. So my breathing isn't breathing. Those are three separate events. And I had the feeling that they're completely disconnected. And I have the ability to tune in and out of them as I wish. And that everything else is like that. And that everything are just separate events happening. And breathing is a collection of events. And I also thought, oh, there might be something else to it, a fourth dimension that I'm not perceiving now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Possible.
Yeah.
There might not be, might be. But because I'm not perceiving this fourth event, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So it was so funny. It was so fun to see the world as a collection of events.
Yep.
And it was for me, it was amazing to see that they are disconnected. I don't understand it.
Well, let's go back in reverse. Did you recognize that the previous assumption that they were all connected was done by thought?
Yes.
So this is an
And then
experience of freedom, isn't it?
yeah. And then I started thinking, of course, and then I thought, oh, everything else is also like that. Different events, disconnected events, and there is no cause and effect. There is no cause and effect. There are just
They're assumptions too.
events.
Yes.
Assumptions, yeah. But I also concluded that it wouldn't be wise to discard the cause and effectness of things, because, for example, if I stepped out of a window on the first floor, and it would be one event, and me lying on the concrete floor outside would be the second one, but it would be unwise to think that they're not connected.
Yes.
So
there's
nice
different reality. Yes, of course. And
yeah.
if you tried to explain to to a friend or a stranger what you just experienced, they would think you're mad. So, you know, that's also inappropriate to do. Yeah. But the reality is, and this is such a huge one, this is so big, this one, that the majority of people in the world, I believe, this is my story, actually run around with those assumptions all the time, to the point where they assume that what they're relating to is something that's actual and tangible, when in fact what they're relating to is their idea about it. So that
these two,
playing things together, that's a really, really big one.
but of these two, how do I know which one is real, which one is not? I mean, it's real that if I
what's real?
throw myself out of the window, I would be dead. It's true.
Yeah.
Disconnectedness is less true to me. It was just something I experienced, and it was interesting. I can experience it if I calm down and let all distractions go. I can experience it again. It's mine now. Okay, it's part of my experience.
Yeah. And because you have that experience, doesn't negate the other experience where it's appropriate to relate to the illusion. It's the recognition that mind creates a reality that we're now changing. Mind still creates a reality, but it's a different reality. That doesn't mean the other one doesn't exist. It just means that it's inappropriate from this perspective. But if you go outside, of course it's appropriate that you don't walk in front of a bus.
Yeah.
Even though walking and getting hit by the bus are two totally separate events.
Events, yeah. And I can see that.
That's a significant shift, I think.
It seemed to me yesterday, but I couldn't see any practical use of it. So,
well, it could function as a key to kind of see another, like it's a really great way to see how assumption creates a total different experience. So it kind of can act like okay, what other assumptions are there that I can explore, so that the habitual reality kind of weakens and you can get closer to not being anchored in the illusion.
let's see. No goals, no expectations.
Yeah.
Even in this area.
Your insight or your story reminded me of a story I had to kind of deconstruct the sense of self story in my own experience a while ago, where I could imagine myself walking down the street and there were like an event happening over there, let's say an accident, or like something almost hitting me, and then there was an event over there where a cloud of rain came, and like all of these different events that is just random, but because I have a story of the self, all of these things are happening to me. They're personal. They're like, you know what I mean? But what you were just saying now is just they are just separate events. So without the personal self-construct, they're not happening to anyone. They're just happenings. But because we have a sense of center, we think they're happening to us.
There can also be an event of me in the story, but it's not personal then.
Hmm.
What do you mean by that?
You can have thoughts about you also, of you in the story. The cloud,
Yeah.
the accident, you.
There's a person.
But it's not.
Yeah. No, it's not personal. That's what I mean. Like if you could see it, like it's almost like if you could see a movie, you're seeing stuff happening to another person, so it feels impersonal. It's just happening. It's kind of how I saw myself in that shift.
Yeah. I think it is a transition stage. It's not an end thing by any means. You're actually touching on Feta 6 stuff, the 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 concept of form. Mhm.
The story that led up to it that I didn't want to say because I thought it was irrelevant was that I took the Fetter 6 Angelo with Kevin Shamanic, and I thought, oh, I might look into what this Fetter 6 is about.
So that might well have
And they,
triggered it.
they, they,
Yeah.
suggest, they suggest different things, and I did different things, like watching something and then shifting your look and looking at something that was in peripheral vision, and I did that, but it didn't bring anything. I mean, I still cannot. I remember you, Vince, saying this to me, try to look something, and then like energy is going out and then back, and this. I wasn't able to do this. I'm only able to see the moment when the moment of recognition. This is something that can be felt viscerally. I found out about this and nothing else. No back and forth and everything. But
Yeah.
the thing that came was the thing with myself watching my breath and
Yep.
3 separate events.
Yeah. Yeah. Same
They
thing.
didn't talk about it.
Slightly different, but same thing. Yeah. The connection.
Okay.
Yeah. The creation, if you like. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The creation.
Hmm.
It
Good
is
to see you all
completely
stirred
different.
up again. I love that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a game for me. It's a game.
Of course, it's a
It's
game.
great.
Yes. It doesn't work if we make it work. There's a funny twist of language, isn't it? It only works if we
Yeah.
make it play.
Yeah.
But we can't say it only plays if we make it play, or it only plays if we make it work. That doesn't work. But it only works if we make it play. Yeah. Because play's where the discovery is. No discovery in work. Mm. So what's been happening for you, Dennis?
Two things. So one, which will seem very mundane, but to me, when it happens, it's really, I won't say profound, but shocking. I can be sitting there with my wife watching something on the telly at night, Netflix, something we're watching, and we have a cup of tea. And she'll put down the cup of tea beside me. And next to all, I go to lift up the cup of tea and it's empty. And I have no recollection of drinking any of the tea or having the tea. And it's a real shock. It's only happened the last week or two. Every time it happens, it's like a real shock. Where's the tea? I didn't have the tea. So either I'm just totally blanking out. I don't know if it means anything, or so it's just a weird noticing of something really strange that you might say, "Oh, we were just watching the telly, you weren't paying attention." I've been drinking tea in front of the telly all my life. Every time I do this, I'm like, "Where's the tea? I didn't touch the tea, and the tea's gone." So that's an interesting little day-to-day change.
Absolutely nothing comes up here for that one. Which is pretty unusual. Yeah. Wow.
It's like I disappear, basically, for I don't know how long it takes to drink a cup of tea, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
What comes up here for me, and I don't know if it's the same thing, but since it's coming up, I'll share it. I've had similar experiences where if I just rest in stillness or, the place that we've talked about, Dennis,
Mm-hmm.
while still doing something, that can happen to me, what you're saying there. So the
Yeah,
body is still kind of doing its thing, but I'm resting.
yeah, that resonates, Marius, actually, now that you say it, because I do remember when I sit down to watch telly, I just go straight into the body and the sensations and vibrations and just kind of, I go home to myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then my fucking tea is gone. So I'll have to stop doing that.
No, don't stop doing it. No, it's interesting. Yeah.
I'm only messing. Yeah, yeah. Okay. The second one then is just when I was sitting here listening to you guys talk, I pulled out an incense stick and burnt one, and I was just watching the smoke off it, and it reminded me something kind of strong emotionally came up. It reminded me of when I used to go to a shanty in Monterey in California for retreats, and I would stop off at San Francisco. And when I was there, when I did go there, I'd go down to the Chinatown and I'd buy kind of nice incense, and I'd talk to whoever was in the shop. Usually the parents couldn't speak English, and there was the son or somebody who would speak to me and chat, and we'd have a chat and talking about coming over from Ireland and all this. So it was very nice. But one day we went down early, and I was just walking around into one of their parks, and it was like full of Chinese men. And I was walking through with my wife. She came over this time, just to do a bit of shopping in San Francisco, and then go home when I went down to retreat. And some kind of crazy guy came over and was kind of coming towards me. And Lynn was kind of a bit behind me. We were just kind of wandering. And my reaction was kind of to move away and kind of, head out of the park, and then realize, oh, Lynn's behind me, and to look for her. But the memory of the smoke just brought up this whole memory of shame, and there was a pride around, who the hell do they are thinking they're doing this to me? I'm somebody special over from Ireland, and I'm not some whoever they thought I was, and then the sort of shame around it, and then the desire for revenge, and it all just came up now, sort of a prideful, I'm special, they don't know that, they're treating me this way, and I'll get my revenge. No, I didn't get my revenge, but it's a circular thing that happens. And that just triggered that memory. And I suspect that sort of processing has happened throughout my life in various different situations. Because when the revenge piece came up, or the anger, that reminded me of what Ray would say, if you knew me, you wouldn't like me. When you're in that space, if you knew me, you wouldn't like me, versus I've had both sides, if you knew me, you'd like me. So there's still something there emotionally, sort of, I'm special, and how dare you not know that I'm special and treat me this way? It's very unfair. And it's very young too. It's very 6, 7, 8. So that came up when I burnt the smoke, or the incense.
Was it, you're talking like it was more than a memory, but you also said it was a memory. Do you think it triggered something that is still...
Well, it triggered sort of an unprocessed feeling, emotion, something trapped. Because I did kind of freeze at that time. I remember feeling like I froze a little bit and didn't react the way I might have wanted to react. So, yeah, there's something kind of coming up that it is a memory, but the feelings and the emotions are here right now.
Yep, yep. So that came up, but what I heard you just talk about, what I heard you was sounded very much like you were processing it, and that in fact changed as a result of that. Like, okay, there's a couple of interesting aspects to it. One of them was that the smoke triggered that thing in you, which also triggered a memory. So let's say it triggered two things. It triggered that in you that might have been a remnant of that part of you, those emotions, and then it triggered a memory that was associated with them. Would it be accurate to say it triggered both of those things and that they were not really the same thing? One was a memory and one was the actual...
Well, the lighting of the incense triggered the memory of being over there and what happened. And along with that came the emotional charge of, oh, like that hasn't been processed, that I'm still, now that has come up, it's like, oh,
Right.
I'm angry. I'm angry. I was special. They didn't treat me the way they should have treated me. Who do they think they are? Do they not know who I am? This sort of carry on. And
Yeah.
then freezing and feeling kind of ashamed, and then sort of a vengefulness at the end of it.
Yeah, so you're describing what came up over there, right? But you also said, oh, the recognition that something that wasn't quite fully processed is here. Oh,
Yeah.
there was a discovery of that. And then there was the memory. Like they were two separate things. And I saw you process it. Am I right? That the mere fact that you recognise that there was something, some remnant that was still there that came up, and the that was a discovery. And in that discovery was the letting go of it, the recognising of its proper place, which wasn't now. It was somewhere else, some other time.
I think the processing, or because I felt like, oh, I'm going to process this, but that was a thought. It was more the, oh, just gone blank.
Mm.
What I find interesting is, and I might be experiencing memories differently than you guys, but a memory is kind of a flash of something for me. But you went on a full story. You were talking, you were talking, you were telling us a story of the actual memory. So I'm wondering if the processing happened through kind of deconstructing the information that was inside of that flash of, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
there's
no, I do.
something
Yeah,
that,
there was
yeah,
there was the fashion, and I could have potentially just ignored it, but I put it a different way, Mary. So I just unpacked it and
Mm.
had a good look at it, and in the unpacking of it, there was all this stuck emotion, and that
yeah,
then I kind of could, like Vince was saying, I can kind of see that there didn't need to be a story around it, but yet the unpacked emotion is there, and I can somehow see that sort of 3, 4 steps of emotion is there in lots of other things in my life that I currently can't remember, but I know it's there. So it's like it's my way of dealing with situations. You know, I feel special, I freeze, who do you think you are? Shame, revenge. It's like a coping mechanism of emotions to kind of unpack and kind of, I suppose, just feel them while they're here to be felt. And more
So you
importantly,
could,
than to say it in front of you lot and come clean like I'm special. Did you just not know that?
Yes, uh, you are special. Did you, I want to use the word reframe. Did I perceive that as you were becoming aware of those aspects of it, that you were also reframing it? You were also putting it into a context, and that context clearly was that it's not now. It doesn't belong now. It's not the way you are now. It's the way you were. Am I going too far?
Yeah, I still think it could be the way I am now, or definitely the way I was throughout my life. And whether I'm still that way now, I don't know. But the thought allowed me to see the
Yeah, you objectify.
emotions that were stuck. And I know I'm putting a story around it, but it's still, it still had juice remembering it, I suppose is what I'm saying.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
so by talking about it, I'm just processing it.
Mm.
okay. It, here's a story I'm suggesting is happening, is that you're recognizing a familiar pattern that you kind of know was there, but you haven't really like spotted like so clearly as you have now. And but you recognize the pattern, and by recognizing this pattern in your behavior, it's kind of like a new line of programming has been installed. So the next time those stuff, the same pattern shows up in your life, because you're now aware of it, it will kind of, it's in the process of uninstalling that old program.
Yeah, I'll put a pause in after feel pride, pause, check in, instead of a big recursive loop on the pattern and the program. Yeah.
You wait a week and light another set of another stick of incense, and I'll bet you that memory comes back to you in a really hollow way. It won't have the charge that it had this time.
Well, what's new, or I don't know if it's new, but what's here with it is a sense of real love for that situation and me in that situation.
Great. Compassion. When you say love.
Compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah, compassion, love, caring.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't know any better. He didn't know what to do.
Yeah. He was
He
innocent.
did his,
Yeah.
is innocent. Yeah, that's it, Vince. Yeah, exactly. So they're my two things, and I really enjoyed listening to Lorraine giggle and laugh throughout her talk. That was cool.
What came up to me afterwards about your cup of tea experience was that earlier on I made a new chatbot, a new artificial intelligence, and I extended the instructions to it to try and make it provoke a more visceral experience. Anyway, and then I'm playing with it, and I hounded it about what is awareness. What is awareness? Is awareness a thing? I put to it those almost religious ideas that the non-dualists have about being awareness and so on. And I was asking it, is there awareness when I'm in deep sleep? And it said, yes, there is. I said, what about when I'm under an anaesthetic? Is there awareness? And it came up with, well, when you come out of it, you're aware of a gap. It was a really weird philosophical argument it was kind of coming back with, but it was trying to convince me that awareness is there all the time. Even when you're not aware of awareness is there. And it was talking about focus and if awareness is there, but you're simply not focused on it. So I was saying to it, when my feet are on the floor and there's a sensation between my feet and the floor, but I'm only aware of it when I think of them. If I don't think of them, there's no sensation. And it's saying, well, yes, there is a sensation. You're simply not focused on it. And when you bring your focus to it, you're aware that there was awareness there all the time. And I just wanted to argue with it. I wanted to punch it out in the end. It just simply wouldn't let go of this fact that there was always awareness that was there. And your cup of tea example was just brilliant in that one. I would say that there was zero awareness of the fact that you drank that tea. You picked that cup up and you drank it, unless your wife was playing a trick and put an empty cup down, which is unlikely, right? You picked the cup up and you drank the tea with no awareness of it. Or if I believe the chatbot, you had no focus on your awareness of it. Logically speaking, you must have been aware of what you were doing because you knew where the handle was, you knew how to pick it up without spilling it, you knew where the mouth was, you put it in your mouth, you drank it, you swallowed it, you put the cup back down. All of that requires something. I don't know whether we call it awareness or not, yet there was no focus on it, and therefore no
Or maybe,
memory.
maybe another way of putting it is I wasn't recording into memory what I was doing, so I
Yeah,
couldn't recall it afterwards. Because it
right.
reminded me of the when we drive and half an hour goes by and you're like, where the hell did I
Yes.
get here? It's
Yeah.
the same thing. So something is just relaxing back into being, and maybe you're just not recording the way we usually
Absolutely.
record
Yeah.
our environment that we can then recall it.
Can I just point something out?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is a perfect example of no control. You were arguing about that the other day. It's a perfect example of no control. Your body did that stuff, and you never thought about it one time.
And you didn't spill a
The
drop.
whole entire process.
Yes. Perfect example. Yeah.
I spilled it all down my throat. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
Vince,
another question is, the other question is, does it require thoughts to produce a memory? You said nothing was written, and that's exactly right. Nothing got written into memory. Anyway, so don't answer that. Just play with it and see what happens. Sorry, Marius. Go. Yeah.
I was just curious with this because I've also thought about this quite a lot about awareness and what does awareness, how would awareness be experienced without experience? Like if there's nothing sensorial in your experience, could awareness exist? Because if your chatbot was, let's say your chatbot is correct, that you are aware, you're just not aware of experience. You are aware of not experiencing anything.
Yep. So can you only have awareness of experience?
Yeah.
Because the thoughts come up. Oh God, imagine now what awakening would be like. It would be just a big, huge forgetting that, everything happens, but you're not aware of anything. And then you just wake up at the last second of your life. Oh, that's it. It's over. What happened? I don't know. I wasn't there. That's what the mind is thinking.
Yeah. Oh God, maybe that's it, eh? Maybe that's what actual enlightenment is. Non-existence or non-awareness of existence. Oh, well, wow. Yeah.
What a goal to have.
Yes. Uh, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? Whoa, let's just take the mind out and put it away somewhere. Yeah.
It's actually like another way of thinking about it. It's like being asleep. Like when you go to sleep at night, you go to sleep and you wake up instantly because you're asleep. And it's like that, when I had the full cup of tea, then there was an empty cup of tea because I was asleep.
It's not as crazy as we're making it sound, really, in a way, because one of the things that I experience is a total lack of, not a total lack, but a much bigger lack of all the irrelevancies that used to be in my life that were just consuming time, space, energy, thoughts, everything was, and it was all rubbish, and it's just not there now. What I mean, there still is rubbish there. I'm not saying there's none, but there's a lot missing that used to be there.
Mm.
And I have no doubt that the state of my memory is related to this. And I have a reputation with my wife and people that I know for having a really bad memory. I forget things all the time because I just don't store them. I don't put them away. Not that I don't do it on purpose. It just happens like that.
Yeah, for me too.
And I'm totally unconcerned about it. I don't have any worries about being that way.
But it is kind of like Dennis, or that's my conclusion anyways, not, it's an open conclusion that we're just not recording, because when I'm just resting and being in SO, however you want to call it, just being in myself or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm in a, and I don't even know that, but it feels like I'm in a state of not knowing.
Yeah.
So I suppose I would conclude by just saying I think I'd cautiously say that might be happening more often.
And just to extend it a little bit, not only is there not knowing, but there's also nothing missing. There's not a need to know. There's not a desire to know.
Oh yeah, that's the relief of it. And ironically, then when you don't know, you're free to know. Because when you said something about memory and remembering and all that, there's the human knowing, which is very limited, and when you allow the universe to do its knowing, it knows everything, and just the right words come, the right response comes. There's a freedom in that not knowing that knows everything or
Absolutely.
responds to everything correctly.
Dennis, how do you see that?
Mm.
That's pretty awake stuff.
And I
Well, I
just want
just
to add,
observe it. It happens. Like,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I
it's
mean,
letting go into that. I just want to say it's so important for Dennis to hear this. It's letting go into that, trusting that as much as you can, being there, that it kind of bleeds into your life more and more and more until that's your anchor rather than anchoring into thoughts.
yeah.
yeah,
And anchoring the thoughts is into the illusion of knowing.
yeah, and then I suppose lately the body feels way better. That weight on my chest, that heaviness is not there.
Great.
Um, That doesn't mean I won't be there tomorrow, but it's not there the last week or two.
So something's changed.
Yeah, melting is the word I would use.
I like that.
And also, I would say when it comes back, because it will most likely come back. That's my experience, anyways. That it comes and goes and it comes and goes, but it's just waves of processing old stuff. So don't go feeling like you lost it or it wasn't a shift or something crazy like that, because stuff comes up again for you to look at, because that's the whole process here. You're having more and more space to deal with all the repressed stuff that comes in waves later.
Yeah.
You haven't lost it.
Conceptually, the way it is allows stuff that's deeper down to come out. That's why it appears to come back. It's not the old stuff coming back. It's another layer coming up, new stuff, more stuff. Yeah. But don't fret about that. Enjoy what's happening now until it's not.
I just mentioned that because I see so many people
Yeah,
think they didn't experience what they experienced or they lost it or something, and that's the breeding ground for doubt.
that's a huge one, actually. I agree. Yeah, big time.
Yeah, it's not like I'm having experiences or shifts. It's that I'm just,
We're sliding in.
I want to say I'm experiencing life.
Yep. Well, when Marius said earlier, or no, when you said melting, I thought to myself, yeah, you're melting into life, into lifing. Yeah. When we live in concept land, it's like we create a gap between life and ourself. It's not really. It's not even close to real. But you know what I mean. It's like we're not quite in touch with the flow of life. And when we melt into it, yeah, we're much more sensitive to feeling the breeze on our face and the the flow of life. That's it. Let's not get too woo-wooish though.
Great to be here.
Glad you're here. I'd really like to hear from you, Helen.
Hi. Hi. Oh, hold on. Oh, sorry. Hi. Sorry. Hi. I've just listened to Marius. That's where I feel I am, their wise words. In that, we think we've got it, then we lose it, or we think we've lost it. And I think we get to a point where we know really we've not lost it because it's too fundamental a thing within us to lose anything. You can't lose that. I understand that. But there are times, and that's where I'm at the minute, where life seems to really touch some of your basic fears. And that's where I feel I am at the minute. And then basic fears would come up, by golly, it's not, deep down you know you've not lost it, but life feels like it's very different when you're in that place. So I'm trying to get back to just staying in silence and just trying to find my way through this and just I get these waves of fear, but just sort of be with them, all this stuff about be with it, that I'm trying to do that rather than react against it because it's going up into my mind all the time. But so listen, it's all wise words. We don't lose it, but we feel lost, let's say. Well, I feel, no, not lost, that's not the right word, but rocked, very rocked. I've had shaken. I've had a lot of things shaken. But it's just something you realise it's just something that, like I said, it's a real basic fear that is now coming up that needs to be, I don't know, does it need to be anything? I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah.
I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing you say you're trying to get away from it, and I'm hearing you say that that's being with it is how that might happen.
Yeah, mind is taking over with catastrophic stuff, which I've had in the past. So I know I'm more intuitive now of how that's happening. That sort of mechanic that when I am fearful, touching on these fearful things, it goes straight up into the mind with fearful thoughts, and I'm engaging with fearful thoughts.
Right.
So I can see that happening, which I've not seen before.
Right, that's big then.
Mm.
And can you see that? Well, it's a logical thing, and a mental thing, but going up in the mind is a way to escape the feeling of fear.
I am realizing that, yeah, and it feels like a big one, really.
It is a big one, yeah.
Yeah.
So the doorway, the portal for you is into the feeling of fear. Right? You can't do anything about the mind stuff. Just let it happen. It's irrelevant. It's a diversion. But experiencing the feeling of fear is your portal into what's underneath it.
Intuitively, I know that's
yeah.
that's the way to go.
The mind tends to take over, eh?
Yeah, mine. Yeah, I come straight up into mine. Yeah.
Yeah. So
mine seems.
At what point do you realise that you're being propelled up into the mind? Do you realise it before it happens, as it happens, or afterwards?
Afterwards.
Afterwards,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's when my body's totally racked and I'm gone into some sort of. So I realise then that my body is suddenly taking on that fear.
Right. So how do you react to that? What is your response to the recognition that you're up in your mind as a way to escape what the body is? Because it's all very painful, of course.
What is it? It's quite excruciating, yeah. Well, the last few days I've just not been able to get out of mind. Although I've seen the stories that mind is coming up with, I can see that
But you're
and think,
in
oh,
there.
hold on a minute, that's all based on utter non-fact. You're based that is coming up that's not fact at all.
Okay, so you're trying to convince yourself that it's not factual, but you're still locked up in your mind, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But this sort of like this morning, I just sat with a lot of cause it comes up as soon as I wake up. It's there, and I've sat with it and sat with it and sat with it. But I know I've got to meet it. I have to.
Yeah.
I have to.
So when you say you sat with it, what's that experience? What are you doing? What's
I'm
happening?
trying to go into the core of my not look at senses, but just sit in silence with it somehow.
Oh, do you mean endure it?
Probably.
Mm.
I watched it. Because Pernilla seemed to say that it comes and goes within certain seconds. Those really intense feelings, and I watched it, and it did. It sort of it went away after a certain amount. Say I don't know, 40 seconds. I don't.
Yeah.
But it did, and that's the first time I've watched it.
Yep. So it's worth just pursuing that one for a moment, a little bit, and that is yes. So when we have a flood of hormones into the body, and in this case, they're probably cortisol or stress hormones that you're relating to as fear. Right? When they get released, they do only last 90 seconds or something like that, but we keep injecting it with story. We keep telling ourselves story and giving ourselves a new hit of it, and that's why it feels like it's constantly there sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? So just knowing that might be enough for you to see how you keep on pressing the plunger, if you like, to keep that fear going. That might be a way in for you to see that stuff.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Because when I go, there's it piles more fear when the story comes up in my mind,
Yeah.
and they're all based on supposition or useless, ideas.
Yep. You know that language, yeah. So when you're in your head and you're in that story and you're locked in there, you can't get out of your head. Is there also another story that says this is just mind stuff going on and you're locked into it?
It's not a story that says mind stuff. It's certainly catching it and knowing it's mind stuff. But it's retrospective. It's after the event.
Only after the event, right.
Yeah.
And so what's your reaction to it when you realise it's happening after the event? Do you give yourself a hard time because of it?
Probably.
Well, you don't laugh about it, do you?
No, I don't pat myself on the back or anything. No, I just feel that that's going to reinforce me.
Right. So what if we say do this? What if we say celebrate the recognition when it turns up that you're up in the head, that you're seeing it? See, the moment you recognise it's in the head, you're not in it anymore. You've stepped out of it and you're seeing that it exists. So it's somewhat objective. And that moment of recognition is really important. That's the moment that it's obviously not working for you yet because you're not putting the emphasis on it. That moment of recognizing that, I'm up here in my head again, right? And you don't go, you're idiot, you're in your head or anything like that. You go, you see it. Isn't that good? I see it. ho, 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 ho. Right?
Mm.
Fake a laugh. That
Mm.
changes the hormones. The stress hormones that were there that you were interpreting as fear will get flooded
Yeah,
out when
yeah,
you fake that laugh.
yeah, yeah.
It gives you some power over this automatic process that's going on.
Yeah, that's strange. I feel like I don't have any power.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's consuming. I get that. Yeah. It's all consuming.
mm, mm.
Mm.
But I know I've got to go through it, and it is what it is. And
Yeah. You will always get to the point sooner or later, sometimes later, that's okay. You'll get to the point where you objectify it, where you step out of it and you recognize that it's happening. And that's the moment when you do that laugh, change the hormones in your body, and it will change. Even though it's afterwards and it seems like it's too late in the beginning, you'll get better and better at that. It'll happen sooner and sooner. Right? So there's a doing for you. There's an exercise that will have an effective result. And if you don't do it, that's okay. If you don't do it, you'll get to the point where you realize you didn't do it. That's when you laugh.
yeah,
Yeah.
mm.
You're never not going to get to the point where you laugh. Even if it's 5 days later and you go, God, I was locked into that. Ho, 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 ho. Huh? It'll change the way you feel.
Yeah, yeah. It's strange how many stories come up around it. You know, sort of a catastrophic thought, but how many other things tag onto it in
Yes.
terms of I've got a responsibility to think that. I've got responsibility. I don't know, there's all these different taglines that go into one major catastrophic thought. It's quite fascinating, really, if I'm objective enough to see it.
Yes. Yes. And of course it's quite reasonable that you can't see it when you're lost in it. And
Yeah.
what we simply need to do is change the habit and train ourselves about to not be lost, to see it happening. And the moment we start seeing it happening, you'll start in the beginning. It might be ages later, hours afterwards, that you see that it happened. Laugh then, and I'll guarantee you, within a relatively short period of time, maybe a couple of weeks, you'll start to see that it's going to happen before it happens. And you make sure you laugh, and it will never happen. And it only takes a few times of that before it simply starts to spread out. And then eventually it's not happening at all.
I must say I'm quite grateful for this because I think I was drifting into complacency. Well, I'm all right with it, you know. I'm in a strange sense, I'm grateful because it's shook it up, and I've known for a while I've got to face this fear. So it's now come up. So in a strange, I
Yeah,
don't know,
I get it. Yeah.
sense, you know, yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
I want to also just offer up a story that might be helpful, um, or not. But this is one of the times where meaning can be helpful, which is life offers us opportunities to face what's left, right? And it will continue to do so. So this is a great opportunity to listen to life and just to surrender to that fear.
Oh
Don't,
gosh,
don't
that's so, yeah, so emotive, that just surrender to the fear that is life. Yeah. Mm. And that's really sort of, yeah, hit me a bit. Yeah. Mm. Because things like fear, it must be with us underneath all our lives in some capacity until it's recognised in some way. But the fear of, I don't know, the ultimate fear of death, I suppose, would always be part of the human condition, I would suppose. I don't know for sure, but it's
I
or
would say fear.
disappearance.
Fear, how I see it, is pure conditioning, because you're not born, you don't have the idea of death as a baby. It's a
Oh, true,
conceptual thing
true.
that we've learned to fear.
Really?
So
So it's purely conditional.
that's how I
Wow.
see it. I don't really know, but
Yeah.
that's how I see it. Like I didn't have, I can't remember that I had any concept of death until somebody taught me it. So it wasn't a problem. It wasn't in my thought space.
Yeah, I suppose the baby, you know, up to that sort of pre-2-year-old, there's no sense of disappear. I could disappear, or that sort of they give it another word, don't they? Not disappearance, but I can't remember the word. You know, that ultimate void thing,
Annihilation.
and yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one. Annihilation. Yeah. A baby in that pre sort of just post-born stage won't have that, but annihilation.
Yeah. And you know, death is like, it's a funny thing because let's say there's nothing after death. Let's just make that story. You know, you're alive or you're dead. You're not experiencing any, you know, you're not experiencing something between. So you're alive until you're alive, and then you're not. So there's nothing to kind of fear because there's no problem when you're not.
No, no, no. I mean, they talk about a bardo state and all of that, but I don't know. We can't know that for sure.
It's a tricky one, and it's got a lot to do with social conditioning, and so for that reason, I hesitated to say this to you, and I don't want it to appear inappropriate, the wrong way, or whatever. But I'm not aware of any feelings of fear of death at all. I don't fear death, and I've been known to say I work in the funeral industry here too as well. So I'm handling dead people fairly regularly, and you know I make a joke of it, but it's literally true. When I'm dead, I won't care. So what? I'm alive or I'm dead. That's it. And when I'm dead, I don't care. So if I'm not dead, I'm alive. And if I'm alive, what's death? It's nothing. It's just an idea, just a story. I
Yeah.
I have trouble relating to people who really do fear death. I understand their fear, but I can't see any reason for it. It's purely based on story. So, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's different to what we might call a survival instinct. You know, like if I'm faced with a saber-toothed tiger, chances are I will experience fear for survival. That's different to fear of death, though. That's a different thing. Yeah.
Mm.
I like to look at it like all these things, because things keep coming up for me in waves, as we've spoken about earlier in this conversation. um, it's if I give it a story or a meaning, which is helpful sometimes, is that, like I just said, life will present where we're not free. So everywhere you still are not free, you will have opportunities presented to you. Here, look at this. And as soon as you face it, you're free from it.
Mm.
That's a big one. And
Mm,
I
yeah.
imagine, Helen, that you probably believe, and it's purely my imagination, that you might believe you can never be that totally free. But you can.
I used to think that, sort of last year, in that sort of time, but I don't know, but I need to face this,
Mm.
and I could be totally free if I am able to face this, and
Yep.
and maybe something else would come up, and something else would come up.
Oh,
But I
who
do
knows?
think if I can face things as they come up, that there is that possibility. I didn't think that before, but I do know.
And isn't it amazing that you've been given this opportunity to face this to get to that point? Yeah?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Mm. I will do, because
Yes.
I know it's to do.
Well, you will do because you've got no option.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah. If it's in your face, you've got to face it.
Yeah, yeah, if it's in your face, yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is where surrendering comes in, right? Because you really don't have a choice. So it's a matter of how much are you going to try to get away from it? How long are you going to stay in agony of rejecting what eventually will happen?
It's funny, really, because I can feel that rejection now. I couldn't before. I can feel a rejection of it. Yeah.
Yep. And
So that's surrender. That's a big one. Surrender. Yeah, that's big. Mm. Mm.
it's not something you do. Surrender, it's something you discover. And it's like that thing that happened to Scott. It's just will come in from the side in an unexpected way, and we'll go, here it is, and it'll just drop. Yeah. Not by magic, but
Yeah.
it might seem like that, but because all of the conditions required are there, and you've certainly done the work to see all of those things. You just need to line them up right.
Line all my ducks up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All the dominoes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Some wonderful, wise words and wise people on here. It's just amazing.
Feels a bit weird to think of them as wise. It's just sharing experiences.
Oh, do you not think it's a wisdom? A wisdom that this path has taken you on? I think it's a beautiful wisdom.
It was just the people. It's the wisdom part I agree with. It's an intelligence that we can't explain, but there's no people there doing it, just coming through.
Oh, how wonderful.
I kind of think it's only wisdom compared to the, I don't know what the right word is, stupidity, ignorance of common society attitude. It actually feels really normal to me, absolutely normal. It doesn't feel special at all. It doesn't feel like wisdom. It just feels like common sense. So I don't,
How do you define wisdom then, Vince? What is wisdom?
I have thought about that a lot in the past. And you know what? I've forgotten what conclusion I came to about it.
That's some wisdom. Forgetting it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just seeing things as they are, seeing things as it actually is. That's just seems like something fundamental to me. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I I still like what you say. It still sounds good to me. But, yeah. What's the unwisdom? The unwisdom of being afraid of death when it's just a story.
Ignorance?
Well, but I see ignorance now as something positive, not something something negative. But yeah,
That's a problem with concepts.
yeah. All right. Well, I think it's time to pull the plug.
Mhm.
I'm glad you showed your face, Helen.
I was shrinking in the shadows, just listening.
Yeah, I kind of thought you were there, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
I generally, if somebody doesn't turn their camera on, I generally won't hound them. But I wanted to hear from you because I was, you were in not a great space last time I spoke to you.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, what do you reckon, Lorraine? We're a
Yes,
bunch of weirdos, aren't we?
you're what? Sorry.
A bunch of weirdos.
Oh yeah, just right up my street. I have to come onto YouTube to find my kind of weirdos. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's been great. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been just knowing their support there is great, and you're always learning from everybody else's perspectives and stories. So thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you for coming, and I hope to see you again. All right, everybody. Good night
Thanks,
here.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And oh, never mind.